Hello, welcome to my talk. I'm Sarah, one of the founders of the nonprofit Teal School. And my talk is called Redesigning School for a Complex and Compassionate World. So welcome. There will be a Q&A afterwards. You can ask any questions you want. I had a hard time making this talk within 15 minutes. I have so much I would want to say, but we can have a chat afterwards. So stay put after the talk. So what is happening in the world? We do see some crises. We see mental health issues increasing among young people. We see environmental crises. One of these pictures is like a river full with plastic, ices melting, racist demonstrations, riots, the war in Syria. And also I have a picture of the flat earth. There's a lack in trust in science, and it's kind of getting worse. But there's also good things happening. There is emerging change. If you take a look around, we see a picture here of Fridays for Future and from a demonstration in Arab Spring. I also have a headline from New Zealand, forget GDP. New Zealand is prioritizing gross national well-being, which is another trend. And also, you know, circular economy, organizations saying that CSR, you know, it's not longer just a strategy, it's a purpose. And I have this Frederick Laloux book here, Reinventing Organizations, a guide to creating organizations inspired by the next stage of human consciousness, where he talks about Teal, which is the new paradigm that we're going towards now, that is emerging. I also have an example here called Charter for Compassion, which they have, for example, let me see, 126 partnering compassionate schools. I also have Otto Scharmer here with a quote: "The business that leaders are in today is the business of transforming awareness. There's deep longing for more meaning, for connections." And he also has a course called Leading from the Emerging Future. In his theory, it's based in his theory called U theory, and it has been taken by 85,000 people from 183 countries, and hubs are formed around the world to discuss this theory and be active in making change emerge. And so these are examples of good things that are happening. And also we see a huge technological step approaching really fast, and it's of course AI that will make changes to the labor market, what kind of jobs we will have actually. So AI will kind of take over jobs that are that requires our mental capacity. As before with automation, a lot of physical jobs disappeared, and now we have like the mental jobs disappearing, and our jobs as humans will be more creative, co-creational, and service jobs. But this is a huge change as well. So what implications do this have? And to put it bluntly, it could go very wrong. We could see a mass extinction of species. rainforests are, you know, it's so much bad things happening right now. We could see over 600 million environmental refugees by the year of 2050. We could see more wars, systems collapsing, AI used in unethical ways, of course. But if we make the right choices, if we work together to make the right choices, we could transition into a new, better world. A world that's handling complexity and where we're treating each other with compassion and where we're feeling connected to other people and to the planet. So what are those right choices? And I would say there are two main groups within these choices need to be done. And one is human development, and I think this is the most important. We need to raise or increase our awareness. We need emotional and moral development, and that means helping people develop beyond the socialized mind, which is what Robert Keegan calls this, you know, when you see the world as there should be one set of rules. All people should be more or less alike. They're not tolerant towards other ways of seeing the world and other ways of being and feeling in other cultures, etc. So we need to move people towards at least the self-authoring mind, where you can kind of see yourself outside the system. And the second right choice would be to have a shift in how we think of systems, a paradigm shift in how we think about and organize work, how we solve problems, how we build systems, from seeing the world as complicated to seeing it as complex. And if we'll talk a little bit about those two right choices. I'll start with human development. And we do have a tradition of putting a lot of emphasis on the cognitive and rational. We have been living in our prefrontal cortex. You know, I'm in my thoughts, and raising awareness of these issues like climate change, etc. It's not enough. But what we need is consciously designing schools and learning environments in organizations as well. This is for not just kids, but adults as well, that focus on holistic human development. We need to increase awareness, as in raising the level of consciousness. So how can we do this? And now I'm talking about for kids, because that's our main focus with Teal School, of course. So for example, for smaller kids, more learning through instead of learning about is important. More play, like role play and singing, dancing, exploring, experimenting, also training communication skills, reflection skills, and also be very careful in not losing creativity. And most of all, what we think is important in Teal School is letting kids build really close relationships with adults, and with adults who recognize the common humanity, who are aware of emotional and social needs, like needs of belonging, love, autonomy, etc. And who see their role as guiding a young human to self-love and self-awareness and self-leadership, and eventually a happy life, or a happy life there and then as well, of course, but also give ability and feelings that will strengthen them to to have a good life in a really fast changing world. And I really like this Maslow's extended needs pyramid, especially when you can divide into deficiency needs and growth needs. And schools today are very much in this cognitive needs, pursuit of knowledge and understanding. But before you can start, working on that level, you need to have like the feeling of belonging, good relationship, friendships, some self-confidence, etc. And then you can start working with the growth needs. What about the necessary mind shift then? The right choice, number 2. And it has to do with seeing the world as complicated or complex. So if you have a complicated problem, it can be analyzed and a solution can be calculated. So if we understand the parts, we understand the whole. And we need experts in that system. You see this picture of the machine. Of course, you will need experts to make this work. But a complex problem can't be analyzed. We can't understand the whole through the parts. So complex problems are solved through experimenting and evaluating and letting the solution emerge. And then we don't really need experts. We need creativity. So the new paradigm, which can be called Teal or metamodern, it's human-centered, it's purpose-oriented, not production-oriented. We go from ego thinking to eco, seeing oneself as a part of something bigger, of a community, and of an ecosystem. And it's emotionally intelligent, and it develops people emotionally with wholeness practices, for example. And there are no hierarchies in organizations. This picture is to describe that, where we're leaving these organizational charts and going towards networks of self-managed teams, sometimes called circles, and there might be circles of circles, etc. And people can be a part of several circles and have different roles, and everything is dynamic based on needs that the organization have. And it's a paradigm in which we handle complexity, which means few rules, creative ideas, a lot of co-creation, trying and evaluating, and letting things emerge. So at Teal School, as we think about it, and we're planning to start our own schools, but we haven't any schools yet. But we want to have self-managed teams of learning guides. We don't want to call the teachers because we don't want them to teach, really. We want them to guide these young humans into developing as human beings and developing knowledge as well. And we want to have age-mixed groups of learners where difference is the norm, so to say. We want to nurture good relationships between kids and adults. We want to respect autonomy, which means self-directed learning, or as self-directed as possible. We want to have possibilities to learn experientially and using your body. We have storytelling as a part of social emotional learning. We work with nonviolent communication. And we also want the kids' identity to not only be formed in, its own culture, so to say, but learning and understanding where we've been in history and society, and seeing different ways of being a community, etc. Perspective thinking, developing self-leadership, etc., etc. And our vision is a society where kids' voices are heard and valued equally as adults, where they can feel safe and they're shown respect. They can feel love as well, actually, and get to develop their full human potential. And that is the foundation of an empathetic society, we think, without hate and prejudice and conformity. We do want the kids to be able to develop individually, but feeling like a part of something bigger, a community or a global community as well. So thank you.